Hey guys, it's me, Meteor. I'm sure some of you remember that review I did of Star Allies well over a year ago, where I complained about its severe lack of difficulty. Fast forward 6 months, and we got Heroes in Another Dimension, along with Soul Melter EX. Problem solved, right? Hardly. While I am in no way denying how hard the DLC was, trust me, I did it without abilities or guarding. I know how hard it was. That is not what this video is about. The issue I have is how HAL handles the difficulty. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, one of the things I praised about Star Allies was that you could practice fighting the harder bosses in the boss rush as Kirby and didn't have to go through an entire mode's world to get there. The DLC completely destroys that. While you can still play as Kirby, you have to go through the entire dimension to fight the boss you want to get to. Honestly, that would normally be completely fine. Just get to the boss, do as much damage as you can, and kill yourself before beating it, right? That way, you can practice again when you're both at full health. Except the bosses in this game have less HP each time you die. Okay, well I could just stand still and get used to the attack patterns, right? Nope. In this game, even the slightest difference in HP changes the attack pattern even in the same phase, which could decide if you dodge an attack or not. So even if you stood around all day and rarely attacked, the fight in the boss rush would still be completely different. Okay, well that just makes it harder, right? It would, yes. But then if this is supposed to be a harder mode, why even have the HP reduce at all? Is it supposed to be hard or isn't it? Make up your mind. I mean, people complain about super guides allowing us to make a level easier or skip it if it's too hard, but those are still an option. We can still choose not to use them. Reducing the HP automatically gives us essentially no way to practice without going into the boss rush itself. And when you have no way to get ready for any of them, doing so is incredibly frustrating. Also, why even wait 6 months to give us this mode in the first place? The idea of picking up a game long after you beat the true final boss when you were way out of practice to play an even harder mode with an even truer final boss is completely overwhelming. I haven't even touched Breath of the Wild's DLC for similar reasons. Seriously, why is there even a true final boss? Is this a new trend? Am I going to have to wait 6 months after each Kirby game just in case there's another mode I'm missing? Why do I have to beat the ultimate choice a minimum of 3 times? If Kumazaki seriously thinks Kirby games have gotten harder over time and wants to make the game easier, which I honestly don't even have words for, then perhaps he can make difficulty modes to choose from at the start? This isn't a difficult concept. Look, I understand EX modes were a thing that started back in the original Dreamland, only recently brought back. I can appreciate that HAL puts more effort into a hard mode than simply giving a boss more HP while giving you less, and I love seeing what kind of attacks are added to harder bosses. Recently though, it feels less like they're adding attacks, but rather taking them away from easier ones. I first noticed this in Robobot when facing Star Dream for the first time. As much as I initially loved the fight, I did feel as though some parts drug on, especially in the second phase. Even though the Solo S fight was substantially better, the Halberd phase still wasn't particularly difficult. It almost felt like that's what the initial fight should have been. Meanwhile, when you look at Star Allies, that's how every boss felt like. Even looking back at the original Soul Melter, those bosses were barely harder than the original bosses in Return to Dreamland. And that's being generous. Never mind the final boss. Let me just say, HAL makes some of the best final bosses I've seen out of any company, period. They truly care about making a finale feel like a finale, something few developers seem to care about anymore. However, when you dumb down a boss so much for its initial fight to where it barely even does anything, it doesn't even feel like a finale anymore. Now instead of feeling like that battle was awesome, it's more like, oh, that's it? Well, I hope its soul form is better. I miss the days when there was only one boss endurance and the bosses were hard by default. Look at Amazing Mirror. That final boss is still the hardest boss I've faced with no abilities. It didn't need an EX form. In fact, That whole boss rush is still one of the hardest ones I've faced. Can we please go back to that? Some may ask, if they add difficulty settings and remove EX forms, what will they add in the extra modes? I don't know, new bosses? That's not even asking for a lot. If they just add a short mode like Heroes in Another Dimension and one boss for each world, that's like 5 bosses. I'm sure they could easily devote some time to that instead of making 3 forms of the same boss. Come to think of it, I think I ranted about bosses about 3 times as well. Hopefully, this will be my final boss rant. Anyway, I said my piece. I'm storming out of here. See you guys next time.